In Houdini 21, the live render node makes it easier for you to be more efficient for your Lookdev projects. Hey guys, welcome back. This is George, Houdini artist and motion designer. And in today's video, I'll show you the new live render node in Houdini 21. So let me show you real quick. So before I start, I wanted to show you the current setup that we have for Solaris. And in Solaris, to render in the viewport, we would normally go to perspective here and we'll go into whichever Karma, CPU, XPU, or Redshift to Karma CPU. And right now what it does is it's nice and interactive. You know, when we're moving around and things like that, that's pretty cool. But then if I wanted to change to look through a different camera, it jumps and starts rendering that. But then I wanted to not go inside the camera and kind of navigate and look at something else. It doesn't really let you do that. You kind of gotta close it out of the render and then kind of change the view or add a different view. The other thing you can do is add another perspective here, or let's go into a split view and we'll go into perspective. So now I can just render this camera here, and then I could freely kind of move around and check out other angles, see what works. And then if I go and try to render in Karma CPU in another one, it just doesn't work. So I'm trying to render on both and I'm not able to do that. So let's say if I wanted to add a new window, and we'll go into views, scene, go into stage, and we'll use this as the render, and then we'll go into the render here. Now we can get the two different views. But you know, this is kind of like not such a clean setup. If I wanted to save the renders, you see there's like an issue happening here. That's not gonna work. So what the live render does is that it actually fixes that issue. So you no longer need to be doing this stuff. Oh, and another point to make is that not here, because I'm using a sub layer that's already kind of baked in, but when we would dive into like a SOP create, our view would change, and then if we wanted to change something in that view, you know, we have to jump back and forth between SOP create or SOP network back into Solaris, and that kind of slows things down a bit, or kind of prevents you from continuing to see the render. So let me show you the setup for live render. So what the live render node lets us do is, if we now open a new window and go into render gallery, and let's start rendering, and I'll show you how to set this up, so don't worry. So now we have this scene here that is a lot lighter than the viewport. So it's not trying to load like every single time that you move the cursor as you're rendering, because that's what the Solaris viewport does, is that you start moving it little by little by little, and it starts rendering, and that's kind of taking up resources. So as soon as you let go of the cursor, it's going to update and we're going to render our view. Another awesome thing is the ability to do a render region. So if we hold shift, left click, and drag, you can see that now we can just start tweaking things here as well. That's kind of like a simple like introduction to it, but let me show you how you can set that up from scratch. All right, so if we start, this is our regular scene. We have our truck model here. I am creating the shaders and assigning them. So now we got this going on, and we just got a floor, and here is JL Tools light array. We merge everything in, and we have our truck, floor, and lights. So normally, like we said before, the moment I move the mouse, like it starts to update. So we want to be able to control the positioning of the camera so it's not rendering at every single frame. It's kind of hard to see the view that we're in. So we'll stop this here. So we're going to use the viewport for just strictly viewport purposes. And we're going to open up our render gallery down here. And that's going to be our render canvas. So the live render node needs two things that are required is the camera and the render settings. So we'll get the live render and then we'll activate it. And you can see that nothing is happening. Why? Because right here under render settings, we don't have anything yet. So we'll do a karma render settings and drop that in. Why I use this one is because it's working right now with JO tools for the assigning of the AOVs. So I can go here, karma, and then I could start looking at maybe the crypto, materials, then depth, what else? Normal, this one back. And ambient occlusion. I don't really need all these. I just want to show you when we get to the cop section of it, of how that works. All right, so we got that. And now we need our render settings. Now it's connected here. It detects it from the upstream and we can select it. So we're still missing something because if we start rendering, nothing happens. We need a camera. So we'll create a camera. And inside the karma render settings, we'll just select the camera. It's already selected because it's default camera 1. All right, and then we'll put 1080p as our resolution. And now if we go to start, we'll move our camera, space G, zoom in here. And now if down here in the render gallery, there's gonna be an icon here that looks like a little circle with green. Select that, and that's going to be your active live render view. So let's move this up and we can zoom in, and that's pretty cool. So now, like I did earlier, we could do the render region. We can, as soon as we stop the render, it's going to save a frame there. So stops it, and now we have that frame saved. We changed our render back to XPU. Start rendering that. We'll click on the live render again. And this is what's been rendered so far. So now if I slowly move the mouse and move the viewport around, it's not rendering anything. So this is saving some resources there. So if the moment we let go of the drag, now we get the render. And this is kind of the functionality that we want out of it. Because we don't want it to be rendering at all times. Well, we added some AOVs. How do we see them? Right here, you'll see we got our depth pass, we got normals, ambient occlusion, object crypto, material crypto, and that's it for now. So we'll go back to color. So another great thing about the live render node is that if we dive inside, we can use this as a testing ground for lights, for shaders, cameras, different things like that. And the good thing about having it here is that we are not messing up our setup that we already have inside here. So if I wanted to create a different set of lights, we can just duplicate this. So let's cut this out just for a moment, and we'll click in here and let's add a merge how we had it before. Let's paste our light, and now our new setup is going to be updated just how we had it on the outside, except now I can start messing with a couple different things. Maybe I want to change the color of the lights. Maybe I want to turn off the dome, and you could test like maybe a different type of lighting. Maybe this could be testing for nighttime, and the other We could test for daytime. That way you can have two different things going on. So there's another thing I wanted to show you is that we can duplicate this here, right? And if we duplicate our live render node and go in here, we could start the render here. And now we have two live render nodes. So in this one, what we can do is turn on the dome, and now we have two separate renders going on at the same time. And while we move, we can update those two viewports as well. So now we have two separate lighting setups going on at the same time, and being able to kind of take a look at our render and our shading and our lighting and see how our shaders work in both like a daytime and nighttime environment. And I think this is super useful. So if I go back and maybe go inside here and let's add more lights. Let's change the colors. I'm just kind of picking random stuff here. The good thing is that you can have a lighting setup for nighttime and one for daytime and be using the same viewport. And I think this would have been really difficult to do. And I think it's a really great update to Houdini with this new node. So aside from having two separate renders, us being able to override some changes, we can also override in here. So I can go back, right? So aside from switching lights, I can override shaders as well. So I can copy this right here and paste it here. This is the live render 2. This is going to be the one with the dome light. And if we go inside our shader here and we change this to a different color, only that one is getting affected. So how is this happening? Well, it's pretty simple. So anything that's inside this node is going to be overridden and changed. We can test different light setups. We could test different camera setups. We can test different render resolutions, different render settings, all that kind of stuff. And I think this is super useful for Lookdev. So the next thing that's really cool is we can go into Cop Network, and inside Cop Network, we can get a file node. And in the under the sources on file node, you'll see live render. We can go ahead and choose our live render. Let's do live render 1 for now. This is the live render. This is what it looks like when it's just a scene view. So you just need to go to the composite view. So this is what it looks like in the regular scene view, but let's just go to composite so we can see it flat. So here it is. And right now nothing is happening. So we can stop the render here and we could start the render again. That's another useful. Those are two other useful buttons to have there. That way you don't have to go back and forth for that. So we'll reload. Let me see what's going on real quick. Not rendering 1 yet. So let's go back. So there's something with XPU. Right now with my 4090 and the Windows version that I have, something's up with XPU, but let's switch it to CPU. Let's stop the render, start the render again, and it should work. Yeah, this is just a issue right now. I think it's with my GPU. I have a 4090 and there's something up with the drivers and Windows right now. So that's got to be sorted out. Hopefully they iron that out soon. But let's go back and to CopNet. And now we could see that in CopNet, we have our paths there. Perfect. So it's done rendering. And then the next thing we want to do is go down here where it says add AOVs from file. And it'll automatically populate all the AOVs that we have. So we can do a, just for fun, a defocus node, get our color into source and our depth into depth pass here. We take a look at it here and press Control. Now in the defocus, we go defocus. And actually, let's click here. Let's select this and stop the render, just to make sure that nothing else is processing. And we can click on different places here and we could see the depth of field. It's kind of hard to tell, so we'll just lower it like that so you can see it more drastic. Let's go back. Let's go into the live render node. One, I think this is the dark one. Let's change the colors. Let's go back real quick and start the render. And you can see the comp already rendering with all that stuff. And as it's rendering, you can test the defocus and or whatnot. Grayscale. We can add a lot more lights. All right, and then maybe the defocus is too strong, so we can like lower that. And then we can go into our scene here and zoom in here. We go back to cops, and then we could see that. So if you're trying to do Lookdev in Houdini, this is definitely an essential node for you guys to use. You just kind of set it up, let it run in the background, and just start changing your different settings for lighting, rendering, layout in terms of cameras. That way, you know, you can focus more time on the creativity part of it. And if you guys would like to see how I set up these materials with just a few clicks, I may do a follow-up video on how I automate all this stuff with JL tools. So that pretty much covers the simple setup of how you can start using the live render node. Hopefully now you can start using this in your projects. I think it's super useful for Lookdev artists, and even for me as a motion designer, I do a lot of this kind of lighting setups all the time. And yeah, hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe if you don't want to miss out on the next video. Next video might be about how we can do these shaders right here. Let me show you real quick. How I can get a model, like a USD model, and create these shaders all within one click. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next video.